Oh, all right, everybody. Welcome back to the next edition of the Mark You Down for a Cup of Joe podcast. I'm Mark,
And I'm Joe.
and today we're going to be doing our weekly NFL pick'ems. So, before I forget, Joseph, I know that every episode up until now I have forgot this housekeeping, but we are going to go over our picks from last week or our records from last week. So, Joseph, I believe you went 7-9 this week on your
No,
picks.
yeah,
And then
was
I
not
went
a good
nine
week in
and
Joe's corner.
seven. Joe's corner. I think 2 weeks in a row where we both had the same records with picks. Where I've went 9-7 in consecutive weeks, and you went 7-9 in consecutive weeks, and that will bring my overall record to 36-26, and your record is 32-30. So, you know, Mark over here is getting a little bit of separation on these picks. And we have something maybe a little bit special planned with these picks, maybe a winner loser kind of thing. Stay tuned for that. We'll kind of finalize things throughout the season, but winner's going to get a nice little maybe leg up in something, if that's a nice little tease for the audience, right,
Oh,
Joseph?
it's a
So,
very nice tease. They got
I
something to look forward to this year.
yeah,
Mark your
they will have
calendar,
some.
folks.
Yeah, mark you down for the Cup of Joe that may be coming maybe around week 16, 17, something like that. We'll pull something out of the bag, something we've been talking about. But again, we have to finalize that. But I think that's enough of a tease for our loyal listeners. Joseph, what do you think? We should get right into it.
Let's dive into this, Mark. I'm excited. It sounds like just from our pre-pod discussion, it looks like and sounds like there's going to be quite a few differences this week. So this
I
should
think
be
so.
a fun and lively discussion. But just looking at this first matchup, Mark, I'm gonna assume there's not gonna be a difference here. New York Giants at New England Patriots. I'm taking the New England Patriots, and I'm guessing you're doing the same.
Yes, I am taking New England by a country mile. Not much to explain here, just a better football team all around. Rookie quarterback versus Tom Brady, best defense in the NFL. That's only allowed, I think, one or two touchdowns throughout the first 5 weeks of the season. I know against a little bit inferior competition, but not bad for a defense. And then this Giants secondary isn't great. This Giants defense isn't great, and I think Bill Belichick is the greatest coach of all time. So, give me the New England Patriots at home on this one for Thursday night prime time.
I think the only hope the Giants have is if they put the Tom Brady killer in. If they put Eli Manning back in.
Oh man, that is a hot take.
But you nailed it all right there. Bill Belichick is just gonna go feast on poor Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is about to get a real warm welcome to the NFL. So,
Yeah.
um,
But
if
before we move on, what do you think the likelihood is of Tom Brady? Maybe the way the Giants win is Tom Brady goes over to the New York sideline and just starts destroying Eli Manning, taking out all of his aggression. 17-0 foiled, 18-0 foiled, and the other Super Bowl 4 years later. Do you think that's the most likely way that the Giants win this football game?
I think that's the only way they could win this football game, Mark.
Tom Brady gets arrested, folks. You heard it here first on Mark It Down for a Cup of Joe podcast. Anyway, sorry, continue.
Let's move down, Mark. Like I said, that first matchup, I don't think we're gonna see any surprises there. But
Okay.
this next game, we got a NFC South showdown, and this one could get saucy, Mark. We got the Carolina Panthers going down to play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Mark, I don't know about you, but I need to be taking the Carolina Panthers in this game for one reason and one reason alone.
Okay.
Are you ready for this?
I am ready for this.
That's because they have an MVP caliber running back named Christian McCaffrey who is playing lights out this year. I read something and I saw something the other day where through 5 games, Christian McCaffrey has as many yards from scrimmage, total yards of scrimmage, as Jim Brown did and OJ Simpson did in, back when they played. I forget the exact years right there, but those are two very, very good running backs. And if you're being compared with them, you're a special talent. He has been taking a whole lot of burden off of Kyle Allen. He has been making explosive plays for this offense right where they need to. Their defense is actually playing really well. They have a fantastic pass defense, and I think they're just going to go feast off of Jameis Winston and slow down some of these big receivers. Give me the Panthers this week.
Yes, one side note, I agree with you on this Panthers pick. This is not actually in Tampa Bay. This is the International London game this week.
Oh, excuse me.
So you have to get up early for this one, folks. But I, too, have the Carolina Panthers. Christian McCaffrey is the best running back in football. He is my second place MVP behind Russell Wilson right now. That's how good I think he is. And he's a running back in a quarterback league. He might win the MVP this year. The last running back to do it was 2012, Adrian Peterson, coming back from that injury. Crazy stuff. I know the league's changed, but he is that special. He could do it. He's going to have his way with this Tampa Bay this defense, and I think Jameis Winston is going to throw a lot of picks against this Carolina defense. Same thing as you. Give me the Panthers.
All right, let's move on then to, we got a fun team in this matchup, Mark, and then we got a team that's kind of struggling right now. We got the Seattle Seahawks going into Cleveland to take on the Cleveland Browns right now. Well, next week.
All right.
I'll let you take this one.
All right. Well, if it isn't obvious, I think Russell Wilson's the MVP of the league this year. I'm going to go Seattle. I think there's going to be a stark comparison between Baker Mayfield and Russell Wilson this game. A lot of people like to compare Baker Mayfield to Russell Wilson, and that comparison will be shattered on Sunday on the football field. Russell Wilson will show why he's one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever lace them up, and Baker Mayfield will continue to be a dumpster fire. Give me Seattle on the road.
Yep, I'm with you, Mark. I think Seattle's just going to make Baker Mayfield look silly again, even sillier than he's looked so far, which is saying something. So, give me the Hawks.
Yep, go Hawks. Both of us in agreement. All right, our next matchup. Let's move on to maybe the marquee matchup of the week. Very good game. We've got them saucy Houston Texans going into those beat-up Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead with the reigning MVP Patrick Mahomes. So, Joseph, who do you have in this one?
I was going back and forth on this one, and I actually made a late-minute change to my pick. And I'm going to be taking the Kansas City Chiefs in this game. I'm going to be taking them. And this is why. I know they had a struggle against the Indianapolis Colts this past week. Patrick Mahomes got banged up a little bit. Their offensive line just played absolutely awful this past week. And they were really struggling to get some big plays in. But I think this week they'll make some adjustments. I'm sure their offensive line will have gotten a talking to. So I think they're going to come back. They're going to play fired up this week. And there's a possibility that Tyreek Hill might be back this week. So if he plays, we're just going to see another explosive player added to that offense. That'll open up more chances for Kansas City to score. So give me the Chiefs this week.
So you and I are going to disagree on this one. I'm taking the Houston Texans on the road. Deshaun Watson, quite honestly, destroyed the Atlanta Falcons last week, a team which I am done picking, for the record. Destroyed them. Was able to throw 5 touchdowns, completely dominate. I think this hot streak continues, and Kansas City ran into a wall. I think Patrick Mahomes had his welcome to the NFL moment. I know he's had nothing but success, really, but I think that Patrick Mahomes got exposed a little bit, even with Tyreek Hill. I think if you hit Patrick Mahomes early and often, it's going to throw him off of his game. That ankle looks to be like an issue for him, a recurring injury on his plant foot, which doesn't bode well for him. I think J.J. Watt's going to have a big game against this beat-up offensive line in Kansas City. Yeah, give me Houston in somewhat of a shootout. And as crazy as it is to say, I think they can beat Kansas City in a shootout. They have their own version of Tyreek Hill and Will Fuller, and this Kansas City defense isn't necessarily great at stopping the run. So give me Houston.
Oh, so we have our first disagreement right there in one of the better matchups of the week. But
Yeah, we shall see.
we go from arguably the best matchup of the week to probably the worst matchup of the week. And Mark, we could potentially call this the dumpster fire game. This is just real bad. We got the Redskins going into Miami to play the Dolphins, and Mark, I really struggle with this pick because I just don't know which of these teams is gonna. Oh, I just don't know which one of these teams is worse. I feel like both of these teams could just start running into their own end zone to rack
Safeties,
up the
just
score.
like a
Yes,
record amount of like 12 safeties.
just we could be seeing the fight for the number one pick right here. But I'm gonna take the Dolphins, and I don't have much for this. I like Josh Rosen a little bit better than I like anyone else the Redskins will throw out there, and it just seems the Dolphins have a little bit more of a direction. They at least know what they want to do compared to the Redskins, and they still have a couple of explosive players out there. They still have Jay Ajayi and excuse me, Kenyon Drake. Kenyon Drake. That's what I'm thinking of.
There you go.
Kenyon Drake. Excuse me, on offense. So I'm gonna take the home team, the Miami Dolphins, this week.
Yes, you and me and both are in agreement. Now let me give you this side note. It is the month of October, and I'm looking forward to see Miami Dolphins fans dressing up as empty seats for this game
Nah,
because I've seen some reports that they're just not selling tickets for this one. That's how bad both of these teams are.
you can get into
So,
the zoo cheaper. You can get into this game cheaper than you could into the zoo.
oh yeah, that's what it was. I did see that report. So, you know, I guess you can go see if you want to see animals get destroyed, i.e., the Dolphins this week, you go to the Dolphins game. But if you want to see some happy animals in their exhibits, go to the zoo, people of Miami. But I am taking the Miami Dolphins simply because Washington just fired their head coach on Monday. I think it's really a tall task to get in there, install whatever interim head coach is in, whatever playbook he has, or whatever they're going to do. It's just that's going to be a whole ordeal of its own, and they're not going to be prepared to play. I really hope they don't throw Dwayne Haskins out there because he might just get murdered. This is just a bad situation all around. So give me Miami in a close one because both of these teams are horrible. But let's move on to our next matchup, Joseph.
We go from. Go ahead.
We've got those Philadelphia Eagles who are kind of soaring right now after their Thursday night win over the Packers and then the bye week. And then they are going into Minnesota to take on those Vikings. So, Joseph, who do you have in this matchup?
I really like the Philadelphia Eagles and the way they've been playing, so I'm gonna roll with them this week. I think a guy that isn't being talked about a whole lot this year that's playing really well is Carson Wentz. I know he's not putting up the ridiculous stats like some of these other guys are, but these past two games he hasn't had to. The defense has played well. They've been able to run the football, and he's made the throws when he's had to. He's looked fantastic, and I think that success is still going to continue against the struggling Minnesota Vikings. I know they just came off of a big win this past week, but I just don't trust Kirk Cousins and this team to compete with a team like the Eagles. I think the Eagles take this one away from the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, you and I both agree on this one again because, one, you stated Carson Wentz. He's a very good football player. He passes the eye test, just not putting up the stats. Very underrated, I think, this year. And two, that Eagle secondary is banged up. So I imagine that Philly's going to go into this game planning to shut down Dalvin Cook and asking Kirk Cousins to outscore Philly and Carson Wentz. and I don't see that happening even at home. So give me the Philadelphia Eagles on the road. You and I both agree.
All right. Now, we got a couple of really good matchups right here. We got two good ones. We got Philadelphia, Minnesota. We just talked about that. Now we have New Orleans at the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I think this is a really good matchup, Mark. But as much as I love Gardner Minshew right now, I think he's really impressed me through these first 5 weeks. But I have the New Orleans Saints coming in and beating the Jacksonville Jaguars. I know they don't have Drew Brees, but they have just gone 3-0 in his absence. Teddy Bridgewater is coming off a very big game. Sean Payton has showed that he can scheme up offensive success for anyone behind there, anyone throwing the football. And overall, this just looks like a very, very good team. I think the defense has been playing really well. That defensive line has been getting really, really physical. They've just been dominating the past few teams that they've played, and they just look like I'm going to come out and say it. They look like a Super Bowl team, Mark.
Yeah, you and I are going to agree on this one again. Taking New Orleans. This is going to be the AK-41 game. For all those of you who don't know, that's my nickname for Alvin Kamara. Stud. He's going to get the ball a lot. He's going to make plays happen. But I think this is Gardner Minshew's welcome to the NFL moment. That New Orleans defense is no joke. It's going to give Gardner Minshew a harder time than he's had to see this year, I think. And he's going to struggle, I think, quite a bit. So Teddy Bridgewater's not going to lose in the game. He's going to manage it just perfectly, and those playmakers around him are going to get it done on the road. So New Orleans in Jacksonville, I take them.
All right, we're in agreement here. Now, this next matchup could be spicy because we got an interdivision rivalry or interdivision matchup between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Baltimore Ravens. We got the arguably another dumpster fire in Cincinnati right now, going up against the Baltimore Ravens, who are coming off a big win against Pittsburgh. So who do you have for this one, Mark? I'm curious.
I do have Baltimore at home. Much better team all around. Lamar Jackson has concerned me after his hot start. It looks like he might be reverting back to what he was last year. So that's a little bit concerning, but I think Baltimore is just overall a better team. I think Cincinnati's defense is atrocious. I like the way Andy Dalton's been playing, but I think this game to me comes down to the Baltimore Ravens are at home, and Andy Dalton doesn't have his playmakers and A.J. Green and John Ross. I think this season could go differently if these guys were in the lineup, but just he won't have the weapons to really test this Baltimore defense enough. So I'm going to take the Baltimore Ravens at home on this one.
Me and you were both, and I'm just going to keep mine really simple. The Cincinnati Bengals are just a much worse football team than the Baltimore Ravens. Simple as that. They haven't played well all year, and Lamar Jackson's proved that he can feast upon crappy defenses. So I think we're going to see that this week.
Okay, perfect. Moving on. Let's move on to our next matchup. A very critical matchup in this NFC West at this point in the season, Week 6. We've got the San Francisco 49ers going down south to Los Angeles to take on those Rams. Joseph, I'm curious about this one. Who do you have winning in this one?
I was thinking a lot about this one, and, I'm going to take the San Francisco 49ers in this one, Mark. I've actually really liked what the Niners have been able to do this season. They have I think, a very, very underrated defensive line. I think they have loads of talent. Nick Bosa looks very, very good. I watched him against the Buccaneers, and he stood out, and he just had a huge game against the Browns. They still have Eric Armstead and DeForest Buckner there, who are both talented young defensive linemen. And they've been able to move the ball offensively these past few weeks. They've been able to get the run game going. They've been able to get some big explosive plays. Jimmy Garoppolo hasn't played, he hasn't been a superstar, but he hasn't played awful. He's played okay. And the Rams just don't look the same as they do. their offense hasn't been as fluid. They've struggled moving the ball, putting points up on the board. So give me San Francisco on the road.
Yeah, couple things with San Francisco. I agree with you. I'm taking San Francisco on the road. There's a few things that I want to highlight here. One is that it looks like the formula for the Rams at this point is to let Jared Goff throw 50 times a game, and that's going to get him killed in this matchup. Two, the San Francisco defense has been able to force turnovers throughout the year. They're a very good defense right now, and I think they're just going to force a bunch of turnovers on Jared Goff in that offense. And three, I think the San Francisco team is going to look at this matchup and just be like, you know what, let's go for the jugular on these Rams. We can knock them out of the playoff race right now this year. And they're going to go into LA and have a statement win over these Rams, knock them out of the playoffs, and everyone's going to be scratching their head and wondering what happened to the LA Rams. This is going to be a very concerning thing for Rams fans. But San Francisco 49ers are going to go for the kill shot. So give me San Francisco on the road.
All right. Now, man, we have some interesting matchups. We got some really, we just got, with this next matchup, Mark, I'm just looking at this. And, man, we just got lots of bad teams playing each other this week. I mean, this is what was really making the pick'ems hard for me. We got the Atlanta Falcons going down to Arizona to play the Cardinals. I don't think this is going to be a very fun game to watch, Mark, personally. But I'm going to take the Arizona Cardinals in this game. That Atlanta defense doesn't look good. Matt Ryan doesn't seem to be. That whole team is struggling right now. The Cardinals this past week against the Bengals were able to get the ball moving on the ground. They were able to control the game a little bit better. David Johnson had I forget the exact number, but he had 100+ scrimmage yards. Kyler Murray rushed for 90 yards. So I think they're just going to run the crap out of the ball and just keep that Atlanta offense off the field, and they're going to run away with. I won't say run away, but they're going to get this one at home.
I disagree with you in the sense that it's going to be a lot of runs from Arizona. I think Arizona and Atlanta are going to put up a fireworks show. This has the makings of a really high-scoring game. Neither of these defenses have shown me anything. This bird-watching match, these red birds are just rolling over to die on the defensive side of the ball. But that being said, give me Kyler Murray at home. I think he may have turned a corner, finally winning his first NFL matchup last week. And you know what? Once you get that first win under your belt, things seem to fall in place. I like Kyler Murray. He's been making plays. He has a lot of talent. And I think he's going to put the NFL on notice this game by winning this game against the crappy Falcons, but the Falcons nonetheless at home. So give me him.
All right. So we're both on the same page. There's not as much disagreement as I thought there would. I think so far we've had maybe one disagreement.
Kansas City, Houston, I think, is the only one.
Yeah, well, that's been the only one so far.
And I think that, just on a side note, were you thinking about Houston before we started the podcast? Because I think you've kind of bought into Houston over the past few weeks a little bit more.
I have, but to go touch on this a little bit more. I really like both of these teams. I really like Houston and Kansas City. But I do not trust the Houston offensive line. Whenever Deshaun Watson gets under pressure, he falls apart. And, this past week he had really good protection, but just the weeks before that he was not getting any protection, and we just saw him fall apart. So I just don't trust that offensive line enough to play consistently week in and week out. And this is a home game for the Kansas City Chiefs. That's a really hard place to play in. Mm-hmm. With Tyreek Hill coming back, you're going to add another explosive element to that offense that I think they could really use right now, coming off of a loss and going up against a Houston team. So, that's kind of what pushed me over to picking the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, you know what's interesting is the reason I picked the Houston Texans is because I don't trust the Kansas City offensive line, and that's kind of vice
Ooh.
versa. But it's kind of like the same reason, just different team. But anyways, let's move on. We've covered them enough. Great teams.
So,
Joseph is next.
we got another interesting matchup. I don't like either of these teams a whole lot, Mark. I was really big on the Tennessee Titans this year. But I
Cold
just
potato.
I just never know with them. They're week in and week out. They're just a team you got to follow every week, and they're going to be going to the Mile High Stadium. The dumpster fire team that we just talked about in our latest in one of our last recordings that we just did. Go check that out if you haven't already. But in this game, Mark, this is where we may differ. I believe I actually picked the Denver Broncos to win this game at home.
Wow.
And part of that is because the offense this year for the Denver Broncos, they have had their mishaps. They have looked bad. They have had a couple of Joe Flacco's had a couple of killer interceptions, but overall they have shown flashes where they can put together drives and move the ball and score the football. And last week they were able to shut down Phillip Rivers and the Chargers. They held them to 13 points. So I'm liking the Broncos. I not a whole lot, but I think they keep this momentum going. I think they come in and maybe shock the NFL again by beating the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, I'm taking the Tennessee Titans on the road. Denver is a team that I trust less than the Titans. That's kind of my rationale here. With at least with the Titans, I can get I can't even say that. I like Mike Vrabel a little bit more right now than I like Vic Fangio. I think this is a game where Tennessee is going to out physical Denver on the front. I think they can be out physicaled. I just think the Chargers don't have a very good offensive line, and that's why we saw Denver take advantage of that, being able to actually get after Phillip Rivers and build a little bit of a lead. I think it was kind of fluky as well. So just give me the Tennessee Titans on the road, but not with too much confidence in this one. These teams are both kind of weird, But I think Tennessee's the weird team. I think Denver's the bad team. But, it's really a pick 'em. Don't bet anything on this game for any of you people out there. This is just a pick 'em, coin toss, really, Joseph. So, anyways.
Let's move on maybe to one of the more surer matchups of the week. We got the Dallas Cowboys going down to take the New York Jets. And Mark, I think this is I think this is a pretty obvious one. I'm taking the Dallas Cowboys. The New York Jets just look awful. I think they finally broke a streak this past week of 34 straight offensive possessions without a touchdown.
Oh,
and
my goodness.
To be fair, they haven't had much at quarterback to work with. But considering they still have Le'Veon Bell, I mean, that is concerning. They haven't gotten him going. Adam Gase hasn't been able to use that weapon back there. And, this is supposed to be an offensive mastermind. Even with Sam Darnold back there, I don't like their chances against the Dallas Cowboys. They're going to come in and they're just going to go feast upon these Jets. We're going to see big games, I think, from Dak, Zeke, and that defense coming off of 2 straight losses. So give me them boys.
Yeah, I agree with you with the Dallas Cowboys, though. Your analysis, I kind of slightly disagree. I think Dallas wins, but I think the Sam Darnold coming back to start for these Jets is really going to invigorate this Jets team. I think it's going to inject a little bit of new life, new energy, and I think this team's going to play a lot better, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, where they've had a guy named Luke Falk at quarterback, and just the ineptitude of that offense with that quarterback. I think they had a crazy stat where they went 28 quarters only scoring like 4 touchdowns or something ridiculous like that this year. So I know that's bad, but Sam Darnold, I think, is going to rejuvenate that. He's going to make some plays on this Dallas defense, and I think my confidence in Dak Prescott's been shaken a little bit, and I like what they have on that defensive line in New York with Quinnen Williams and I think Leonard Williams and just a bunch of those guys in that front seven. So give me Dallas, but in a close one at home for the Jets.
Oh, okay. That's that I probably won't watch that game.
Say, I'll use Red Zone and I'll keep myself tuned in for sure.
Oh, actually, I may. Oh no, we got the Niners and the Rams. That's to be quite honest, I'm probably going to tune into that one. I think that'll be a better one. But we'll keep an eye on the Dallas game. That should be an interesting one. But moving on, Mark, we got. This was another challenging one for me. We got Pittsburgh going down to LA to play the Chargers, and Mark, for this one, I took the Chargers, mainly due to the fact that Mason Rudolph just went down for the Steelers, and they're going to be rolling with a undrafted rookie as their starting quarterback, and I don't like his chances going up against Phillip Rivers. I know the Chargers haven't played well these past few weeks, but they are still a talent-loaded team. They are explosive on offense. They got Melvin Gordon back. Austin Eckler's played well. They still have Keenan Allen. So I think they're gonna win this one.
Yeah, you and me both. I like the Chargers at home, not by much. If Mason Rudolph was playing, I think I'd pick the Pittsburgh Steelers because I think that defense is something else. I think they're one of the better defenses in the NFL, and I don't like that Chargers offensive line as much. So I think if you have a decent pass rush, Phillip Rivers doesn't necessarily have the mobility or the arm to really make you pay on the offensive side all the time. But since they have that, give me the Chargers. They'll find a way to put up some points. I think this is going to be a really ugly, low-scoring game, but nonetheless, the Chargers at home.
All right, so we're on the same page here. And Mark, I sure hope we're on the same page for our Monday night showdown between the Detroit, do I dare say, Lions, or should we say Cubs? Taking a little shot there.
About Chicago?
No, I was trying to take a shot at the Lions and call them maybe a baby, a little baby lion, but that clearly seems to not have worked in this case. I'm just gonna make my pick right now. I'm rambling. Give me them Packers, baby. They came off of a win against the Dallas Cowboys in AT&T Stadium, although I think we should start calling that Lambeau Field as well. Aaron Rodgers is 5-0 at Jerry World. So
you got me with that one. Lambeau South, maybe?
Lambeau South, that could work.
South Lambeau.
Anyways, where was that? So, yes, I'm taking the Packers in this one. I've really liked what they've been able to do this year, and it just seems like they are improving each week, especially offensively. Against the Cowboys, Aaron Jones, they got the running game going against a very, very good defense. Aaron Rodgers, I know, didn't put up the most amazing stat line, but later after the game, he came out and said that was the best game he's played all year, that he's not too concerned right now with putting up stats. He's more concerned about winning, which, coming from him, gave me a little bit of ease as a Packers fan, knowing that they know what they're doing and that this is part of the game plan. Brand new offense for him. They're still making adjustments, but they're still improving week in and week out. Devontae Adams may be back for this game, and I think that'll be a big boost. So give me the Packers in this one.
Yes, go Pack, go. I agree with you.
Hey.
First and foremost, the Packers are at home. Excuse me. I've been sick, for all you listeners who are wondering, so this is kind of why my voice is a little bit messed up, but I'm powering through for the pod. First off, the Packers are at home. I think that's going to be a huge advantage on Monday night. Going to be definitely Aaron Rodgers at home. Aaron Rodgers also traditionally has been very, very good against the Detroit Lions. He might smash them more than any other team besides outside of maybe the Cowboys and the Bears in the NFL. So there's that. I do think they're going to get that run game going with Aaron Jones again. That's going to help them control the tempo, dictate this game at home. And I think similarly to like the San Francisco LA Rams game, The Green Bay Packers have to be looking across the pond at that Bears loss to the Raiders and thinking, if we win this game against another division opponent, we would have beaten every team in the division, and probably the stiffest competition in the Bears are looking a little bit vulnerable right now. So I think they're going to smell the blood in the water and take advantage of this division, put themselves solely and comfortably in first place. Give me the Packers at home.
Woohoo! You know, I wish I wish I had my cheesehead with me right now, Mark. I'd go throw that on. I'm so excited we're on the same page. But you know, I think this weekend, week 6 should be a good one. We got some good matchups. We got some really bad teams playing each other. We talked about that a little bit, but those could turn into some really really good games. You never know. Bad teams, when they play each other, seem to do well. So
yeah, I mean, someone has to win, right?
Someone has to win.
I'm looking at you, Washington, Miami.
Would this be a spicy take? Here's a spicy take for you, Mark. What if Washington and Miami just tied? What if they were both just that bad that neither team could move the ball, neither team could score, and we just had a 0-0 tie?
I would have a freaking aneurysm because I don't want on our pick'ems, first and foremost, I do not want to have our record and then a -1 next to it. I think that would be... You know what? I'm actually kind of glad we didn't do the pick'ems week 1 because Detroit and Arizona would have just pissed me off having that -1 at the end. So there's where my thoughts go. But then my second thought is like, I mean, I guess I'm not surprised. You know what I mean? Like, would you be honestly surprised if Miami and Washington pulled out a 0-0 stinker tie? I mean, it'd just be like, two horrible teams going at it.
I mean, if they still have number 63 in at left tackle, Josh Rosen ain't doing anything. Come on, man.
It might be a field position game, like who's going to get sacked and fumble first, kind of thing.
But at that point, I think you could just see both teams just sit there and stare at the ball and wait for one another to go pounce on it.
Who's going to tank harder? Maybe that's the thing. They're going to be trying to throw the game. We're like,
maybe this is where we could see this game get interesting. Just which team wants to lose the most.
I know. Man, this is going to be such a grease fire. And you know what? Now that we're kind of hammering on this, I feel like this is going to somehow turn into the game of the year. NFL Films is going to do some sort of crazy thing, like, the grease fire in Miami, it'll be called. And, they'll bring on color commentator for the game talking about it, how Josh Rosen, threw the game-winning, I don't know. I can't even say touchdown at this point. Maybe he throws like a 30-yard bomb and completes it somehow and they kick a field goal, Just the worst teams going at it and some epic conclusion. What do you think, Joseph?
We could see, we could see this years later, like you said, NFL Films, where, one of these teams ends up with the first overall pick and the guy they drafted quarterback turns into the next big thing. We could see this turn into some like 30 for 30, just the like the little screw up for Tua, the
screw up for Tua,
stuck in for Justin, and we'd get some pod credit for that. They'd be using our stuff. So I'm all game for this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm pulling for Miami to win this game because I think Washington with the number 1 pick definitely opens the door for a Raiders trade up because of Dwayne Haskins and how much that Redskins owner loves him some Dwayne Haskins. So come on, John, you gotta get it right here. So, but anyways, that's gonna conclude our episode. Thank you guys for listening. We tried to shorten it up a little bit for you guys, so you didn't have to listen to too much. So anyways, do not forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe on Facebook and YouTube at Mark You Down for a Cup of Joe for both. And share it with your friends. Like, if you really like our content, you like listening, just share it with your friends. We're trying to grow this thing and include more of the audience, have more audience interaction with it. But anyways, this has been Mark.
And this has been Joe.
We are signing off. You guys have a good day.